Good morning, and welcome to First Jefferson Unitarian Universalist Church of Fort Worth, Texas. We're pleased to offer you the safety of in-home worship this Sunday until we manage to contain the dangers of the novel coronavirus. My name is Thomas Earthman, and I am the religious education professional here at the church. You can watch or listen to our services anytime during the week on our website, on our Facebook, or the YouTube channel. Our board of directors voted in July, and we will continue online services until things in Tarrant County improve. This week, there are also several social and business meetings you're free to attend via Zoom or Google. Look in your Courier, which is our weekly newsletter, or our weekly update emails for more information. This week, our service focuses on our commitment to justice and compassion in the world, and how we go about ensuring that that work that we do will outlive us. The worship team this week includes Patrick Gutierrez, Julia Hevelone, and Guy Thornton. Our pianist is Mikhail Brezhnev, and our song leader for the week is David Bendy. We'll now have a prelude. Thank you, Mikhail. Our opening hymn this morning was chosen to wake us all up a little bit. It's from the Teal Hymnal. David Bendy will lead us in hymn 1028, The Fire of Commitment.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and souls ablaze, when the hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our organ choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze. When our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Our chalice lighting today is by Melanie Davis. If ever there was a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, light the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice. Now, if you'll join me in saying, as we do every week, our congregational covenant. It'll be printed in front of you on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant together.
Rejoice in love we know and share, in love and beauty everywhere. Rejoice in truth that makes us free, and in the good that yet shall be.
Today's service will focus on why this church matters. Not necessarily churches broadly, because I don't know what makes every church matter, but I can tell you some of the important reasons why this church, a Unitarian Universalist church in Fort Worth, Texas, matters. I'd love to hear why it matters to you, and you can tell me on Tuesday at our Let's Talk About It event. But with that in mind, I give you a fable, slightly reimagined from the ancient Greek original.
Unity and Teamwork, based on a story by Aesop. The Greek fabulist Aesop wrote a story about a farmer who had several children, and the children did not get along. They were always finding something to fight about. One day, when the arguments had been more aggressive than usual, and each of the children was moping around the farm being grumpy, the farmer asked the youngest of them to gather up sticks and tie them into a bundle. The farmer then handed the bundle to each child in turn and told them to try to break it. And although each one tried their hardest, none of them was able to break the bundle. The farmer then untied the bundle and gave each child one stick to break, and then another. And they did this very easily. Aesop believed the moral of the story was that the kids standing together as a family would be harder to break, and they could stand up to enemies and natural disasters, and that's probably true. I think, though, the better moral is how easy it was to complete the task when all the kids shared responsibility. How effective it is to work together to get things done, rather than to try to do it all individually. Cooperation can make a hard thing easier, and an impossible thing possible. Either way, the kids learned a lesson about teamwork, and about not letting their tempers stop them from sharing responsibilities. The chores got done faster and better, and the farm ran much more smoothly from then on. And the farmer was very happy. The end.
For our generosity report this week, $1,600 has been given for the buying of new audiovisual equipment for our sanctuary. Since we will continue to record the services even after we return to in-person meetings, we need to update the equipment that we're using, our microphones, our cameras, and our recording equipment. So thanks to all of those who've been able to donate. Additional donations can be sent to the church with AV equipment in the memo line. For this week's communion of names and milestones, we're happy to announce Samuel H. Fletcher, the newest grandchild of our member Joy Fletcher, was born on August 1st. He weighed in at 7 pounds, 15 ounces. Mother and son are doing fine. Grandmother Joy is beside herself. I'd also like to insert that your adult religious education committee has agreed to send me to an additional training. It's a professional training offered by the UUA so that I can assist them better in adult faith formation. So I'm very excited to share that with you since I'm up here this week. If you have anything that you would like to share, please send that to Carl here in the office via email, and we'll make sure that we get it in for next week. So, with those joys in mind, I ask you to contemplate for a moment in a world that is a little out of sorts, certainly hectic and stressful for a lot of us, that there is good in the world and that good is worth remembering, it's worth building on, and it's something that we all need to remind ourselves of from time to time. Join me in a moment of silence. Isn't it fabulous to know that in this time, if you need a slightly longer moment of silence, you can hit pause and we'll be right here when you get back. Today's reading is from mid-century liberal Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams from his essay, Guiding Principles for a Free Faith. It's from the book On Being Human Religiously. The community of justice and love is not an ethereal fellowship that is above the conflicts and turmoils of the world. It is one that takes shape in the nature and history, one that requires the achievement of freedom with respect to material resources, as well as with respect to spiritual resources. Indeed, the one kind of freedom is not fully authentic without the other. Freedom, justice, and love require body as well as spirit. We do not live by spirit alone. A purely spiritual religion is a purely spurious religion. It is one that exempts the believer from surrender to the sustaining, transforming reality that demands the community of justice and love. This sham spirituality, far more than materialism, is the great enemy of religion. Our next hymn is number 317. We are not our own.
are not our own. Earth forms us, human leaves on nature's growing vine, fruits of many generations, seeds of life divine. We are not alone. Earth names us, past and present, peoples near and far, family and friends and strangers, show us who we are. Therefore let us make thanksgiving, and with justice willing and aware, give to earth and all things living liturgies of care. Let us be a house of welcome, living stone upholding living stone, gladly showing all our neighbors we are not our own.
Today is the anniversary of the publication of Walden, or A Life in the Woods, a book by Henry David Thoreau. I can imagine there are at least half a dozen congregations hearing a service focused on that book and its author this morning. I will stop at acknowledging the anniversary. Today, August 9th, marks 46 years since Richard Nixon willingly left the White House and ended his presidency. I don't want to go into the politics of the event or how it might relate to current events, except to say that it is a marvelous thing that even in a crisis, we had a system in place to ensure that with 2 years and some months left in his term, he was able to resign, and life was barely interrupted for the majority of Americans. In the words of Gerald Ford, "Here the people rule." May it ever be so. And friends, today marks 6 years since Officer Darren Wilson shot and killed Michael Brown outside of St. Louis, sparking the Black Lives Matter movement that we honor with banners hung here in the church, and that has led us to the vigils, the protests, and the activism that take up so much of the news today. These three events tell me that this is a day that matters. This is a day when change is possible. We can be part of shaping that change. And in fact, part of our mission statement as a church says, we nurture spiritual growth, encourage lifelong education, work for social justice, serve the larger community, and celebrate all life's gifts together through meaningful worship. Nurturing growth, encouraging education, working for justice, serving the community, and celebrating life's gifts. That's the promise this congregation makes to its members, and the promise its members make to this community. That's how you all have chosen to bring about a better world, and I really think it could work. It's a worthy mission, but the mission cannot live in the world as mere ideas. It shouldn't be just words. It deserves to be made real through planning and action. It's worth the investment of time, energy, and resources. That mission deserves to be incarnated. It deserves a church. It deserves a church because none of us can do all of those things alone. It will take the talents and resources of a community. And if it is to last, it needs to be made into a plan for the future. And that's what I want to focus on today. My email signature file, it's a quote from Kurt Vonnegut, writing for a character in one of his novels, The Sirens of Titan. There's no reason why good cannot triumph as often as evil. The triumph of anything is a matter of organization. He goes on to say, if there are such a thing as angels, I hope they're organized along the lines of the mafia. Now, I'm a Unitarian Universalist, so it's not up to me to tell you whether there are angels. But I can make some bold statements up here, and I can ask some pointed questions. So let me tell you that I don't have any evidence that there are angels. And if there are, I don't see them helping us out often enough to really make a difference. So let me ask you, what would it look like if we organized around our principles? What if we invested in a vision of the future and created an institution to carry those hopes forward long after we've passed on? Well, I think it would look a lot like this church. Maybe not what it looks like today in the middle of a global crisis, but what it has looked like and what it can look like again in a year or so when we've had the chance to recover and reinvest and recommit. In his Guiding Principles for a Free Faith, which I read from earlier, James Luther Adams reminded us that for anything to exist, power and matter must be organized to give it form. Nothing exists that didn't come from something, and that new thing had to be organized, if only by the laws of physics, into a current structure. The decisive forms of goodness are institutional forms, he says. The faith of the liberal must express itself in institutional forms, in the form of education, in economic and social organizations, and in political organization. Without these, freedom and justice in community are impossible. He laid this out as a fundamental part of liberal religion, as he saw it, that we had to take our faith and turn it into action. We do not live by spirit alone. For goodness to exist, it must be the focus of action, and that action is most productive when it is organized into a plan, where our work is supported by the work of others. There's one word Adams used that I particularly want to emphasize. The word was institutional, the institutional forms. An institution is a significant practice or relationship, an established organization. And so we find that the idea of institution is connected to the idea of organization. And so I propose that maybe Reverend Adams and Mr. Vonnegut were hitting on the same basic idea. The triumph of anything is a matter of organization. The decisive forms of goodness in society are institutional forms. For goodness to come into being, it needs to be created intentionally. And for it to last, it needs a group of people pooling their resources. The classic trio of stewardship: time, talent, and treasure. In short, it needs a church, or something indistinguishable from a church. Not the superstitious dogma, mind you, but an organization devoted to goodness and justice and community. Liberal religion can be part of the bulwark against unethical science and unjust political policy. Liberal religion can be a force for good, a moral compass and a spiritual bolster through practical organizations, doctors, lawyers, teachers. Their spirits get weary and battered just like bodies do, and the support we can offer can be just as vital to long-term success as legal counsel or physical health care. People are hurting and learning that there is a community willing to welcome them, their whole selves, just as they are, and to encourage them to be their personal best is in some cases nothing short of life-saving. Our willingness to question motives and unintended consequences can help keep our practical partners from overlooking issues of compassion and ethics. And a church needs a mission. Not just because every organization ought to stand for something, but because it's a function of religion to transform a group of people into a community with a shared vision. And for us, that vision is worldly, humanist, if you will. We want to make this world more loving, more just, more peaceful. And we do that through education, through service, and encouragement. Every UU congregation has a similar mission because that's how we make good things happen. Goodness needs communities committed to these goals. Again, something indistinguishable from a church. The reason a lot of us came to Unitarian Universalism is that we saw this group of people who were doing the kind of activism and service to the community that we wanted to be a part of. Living out our mission faithfully and with hope will attract other people who want to make that same difference. Let the mission lead us, and we will grow. Growth is a side effect, not the goal. If we're doing work that matters, people will want to be a part of it, and the church will not only grow, but its mission will live on in a new generation. And it will be an institution for change and hope and justice. By working in concert, we build, sustain, and strengthen an institution of goodness that is bigger than any of us and will outlive each of us. That is our teaching of what real, tangible, and effective good looks like. Doing that good, helping each of us do what good we can in the world, is why this church exists. To nurture spiritual growth, encourage lifelong education, and work for social justice, to serve the larger community, and celebrate life's gifts together. So it should be. Our closing hymn is number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use, to build the common good, and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must hear, for failure, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use, to build the common good, and make our own days glad.
As we end our time together, I don't want you to think of this as extinguishing the chalice. I would like to instead think of you as me sending this out to you. I share with you the words of Reverend Amy Zucker Morgenstern. When we take the fire from our chalice, it does not become less, it becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take its light and its warmth with us, multiplying their power by all our lives and sharing it with the world. This is a day that matters. They all do, because we only get so many of them. I'm proud to share my days with this community because I'm proud of its mission and the way that we go about fulfilling it. Let us remember that we are a community. And while we can't gather in person, that doesn't lessen our bonds. It makes them more important. Be together in peace and in love. Thank you very much, folks.